Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons to the NBA draft and the Motor City Cruise.
And guys, if you're tuning in live with us and you can see the little title that we put on the actual stream for this one on Facebook and on YouTube, we're still not on Twitter trying to figure it out, but it is what it is. Anyway, it says it all comes down to this. When we had put down the title, we had thought, hey, maybe the Pistons end up beating the Bucks here, and then that final game is really going to matter for seeding. And it was a really late change here that I had to add that or doesn't, because, well, they lost to the Bucks. We know that they're the 6th seed, and the Knicks as well on that evening locked up the 3rd seed with the Pacers losing a game. So we know for sure who the Pistons are playing in the playoffs. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's not, and I mean, gives everyone a weekend, I guess, to regroup and get ready for the playoffs. I kind of think, like, obviously the Pistons want to win. They wanted to beat the Bucks last night, but I think this is where I expected it to head, and it's nice that it's wrapped up with a game to go and can kind of give Cade a rest, and when guys are about to hit more minutes and everything's going to truly matter, you just get a couple days to ease into it.
I do want to talk about what this next Bucks game should be, like how you and I would maybe want to treat that if we were in the Pistons' shoes, if we were in JB Bickerstaff's shoes. But I told this to the guys over at the Pistons Pulse, but I was really rooting for just the chaotic outcome here with the playoffs. I wanted the Pistons to face the Knicks in the playoffs, but I wanted it as the 4-5. How funny would that have been? Like if the Knicks lost out, the Pacers unsat them for that 3 seed, and the Pistons sweep the Bucks, and you still have it, but it's just 4-5.
Yeah, the East is very not chaotic this year. I mean, it's chaotic in the sense of like the Pistons made the playoffs and as a top 6 seed, and no one saw that coming going into the year. But I feel like the West is where it's really coming down, where you have I think 4 through 7 are all within a game with each other, and there's all these different scenarios. So at least we have that, and when we're about to see the most meaningful Pistons basketball and who knows how long, can just take a break and let the regular season go for now.
All right, before we go ahead and talk about that next Bucks game, talk about the playoffs, I found some interesting kind of trivia questions that I wanted to run right by you here, Blake. So we got a couple, one on Cade Cunningham, one on kind of Pistons, Knicks, and then just another kind of looking back at how wild this season has been for Detroit basketball. But let's start off with the Cade Cunningham one. So we know he's had an incredible season, right? He's averaged 26.1 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, 9.1 assists. Unreal production for Cade. Name the last Piston to average at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in a season.
So those are obviously superstar numbers. So my gut goes to Blake Griffin when he was doing everything, but I don't think he had those assist numbers. And then I'm just filibustering here while I think. I don't know if that happened in the going to work. Was it Grant Hill?
It was. Yeah. So the problem with Blake Griffin, he was really close. So he had the rebounds, he had the assists actually. He had 5.4 assists.
Oh, really?
Year. It was on points. Okay. Yeah, he was 24.5 points per game. But yes, so Grant Hill was the last one to do it. He did it obviously. I think he did it a couple times back in the 90s. I didn't pull the exact season. I just know that he is the last one to have had it done. Now, here's the little plot twist. Is he the only other name, or are there others?
Let's see. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think this player did it, but the only wait. I think Bob Lanier did it. Is that one? No.
No.
Okay. I went back a
Grant
little
Hill's
further.
the only other player.
The only
He's
other
it.
Piston, okay. The only
Yeah.
other name I was thinking of was maybe Isaiah Thomas, but then I was like, he probably doesn't have the
Rebounds.
rebounding numbers. So
Yeah. Isaiah Thomas had
that's
some
interesting.
wild seasons. Like I was going back to
Yeah.
try and look through and actually ended up pulling up like a stat head comparison between Cade, Thomas, and Billups for like, probably their quote unquote best seasons in Detroit. And Isaiah Thomas in his best year was like 14 assists per game
Oh
almost.
my
It was
gosh.
unreal numbers on that. I will say Cade averaged more points or rebounds than either of those other two guys ever did, but you'd probably expect that a little bit with how the league has changed and
Yeah.
just how those two teams played, and then of course that he's a lot bigger. But yeah, so in all of Pistons history, as far as I can find, if maybe our guy on Twitter, Keith Black Trudeau, if he knows differently, he can correct me and he'll put it up on Twitter and correct the podcast. But as far as I can find, the only Pistons in franchise history to average at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists are Grant Hill and Cade Cunningham this year.
That's a good stat. Credit to you for finding that.
Yeah, crazy. So let's look at the playoffs now. The Pistons and Knicks have met in the playoffs 2 times. Right, 2 times. What is the Pistons' record in those games?
Okay, so I do not remember any of these series, so I'm just gonna guess they split and won, like each respective team has won one. Um and I'm just guessing that neither of them are sweep, so I'm gonna go the Pistons have won. The Pistons are 7-5 all time on the Knicks in postseason history.
You're right there. They're 8-7. All right, they're 8-7.
Oh,
So they
okay.
met in the second round back in 1990. They won that series 4-1, and then they met in the first round a couple years after that, in '92, and they lost 3-1 in the first round.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I was really surprised. So I mean, these are obviously historic NBA franchises, right? The Knicks go way back, the Pistons go way back. To have only met twice for playoff series that I could find, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I think it's because their timelines it just like kind of butted heads with each other. Like, I mean, there was
Yeah.
that series you mentioned, but when the bad boy Pistons, it was like the Celtics and then the Bulls were coming on too, and then the going to work era. The Knicks weren't really around then either. So I feel like just both teams like time where they were at the front and center of the NBA just clashed with one another.
Yeah, and it was really funny actually because I was trying to build out another trivia question just on regular season all time head to head because that one's actually pretty close too between the two
Really?
teams. But it's funny to see how the series in the regular season has fluctuated because like think about the late teens, right? The late teens for the Pistons. They were competitive, right? They weren't great, but they were competitive. And that was when the Knicks were really in the gutter before Thibodeau shows up. So like you have just a stretch of 4 years like they haven't lost to the Knicks at all, right? They're just sweeping the Knicks. And all of a sudden you get Thibodeau and then the Pistons tank and then it flips on its head, right? The Pistons don't beat them until like 2 years ago. And then now this season it switches again. They've both been competitive. But that's unusual going back through history because like Melo is at the basement right at when Melo comes to New York. He comes to New York as the going to work team like is obliterated, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
gone because you had Melo and Chauncey in Denver for I think 1-2 years right after the Pistons traded him, and then he goes to New York, and that's when you've got the leftovers basically were
Yeah.
struggling on that Pistons team. So even those go bad, and then the series flips again. It was just really funny seeing all of the L's and then all of the W's. It just that's how it went for a decade basically.
Yeah. And even this iteration, like no one expected the Pistons to do what they're doing this year. But now it sort of coincides a little bit, and the Knicks just coming on as like, I don't know if they're necessarily a power in the East, but one of the East's best teams. So it's it's going to be a fun series. I'm excited for it, especially just to see the Pistons play those games like at MSG, even though
Yeah.
Little Caesars Arena is going to be like an unreal atmosphere too. Just like what an opportunity for this team.
Cade Cunningham and the bright lights of New York with the opportunity to be the villain. I love it. That's going to
The new
be
Trae
that's going to be
Young.
so fun. Yeah, the next Trae Young and a long line of Knicks villains in the playoffs, right? Like you just add
Reggie
to
Miller.
that, right? That auspicious category for Cade. That could be great. All right, second to last one. True or false? Like I feel like when I said this, I should have said sheet or sham. There's insider joke, but true or false? Not adjusting for league trends. The Pistons have just set the single season record for offensive rating in franchise history. So just raw numbers. We're not adjusting for
Not
pace or
adjusting.
placement
Okay.
in the league.
I'm going to say
anything like
true.
that.
I
True.
think that's
Yeah, it is true. It's
Okay.
kind of wild. So they're at about 114, the next closest. That's actually 3 points higher than the next
Okay.
closest, which was in the 80s, right around 111 or so. Now, if we adjust it, do you want to take a guess on where this season would rank all-time franchise history for offensive rating if we adjust it for pace and league trends, things like that?
Yeah, I'm going to think I mean, I'll say that one is probably false, but ranking it, I'd say it's still somewhere up there. Maybe like I'm gonna go 5. And the reason I struggled is just because like I feel like their defensive rating and everything is like kept them up there in advanced stats and everything. So while their like offensive rating wasn't horrible or even bad by any means, I know it was just like I feel like it's the defensive rating that sort of kept them up there. So if we're adjusting for it, I'm gonna say it's 5th in
Fifth.
franchise history.
So not actually as good as what you were thinking,
Okay.
but still
Okay.
very good. So nothing to sneeze at. All time, and this is the Pistons stats go all the way back to the 50s, right, or maybe even before
Mhm.
that. But it's been a long time. Pistons have been around forever. So this is actually tied for the 20th best
Okay.
offensive
Way
rating
off.
season, adjusted, but adjusted for change of pace,
Yeah.
relative position within the league, things like that. So 20th best is still nothing to sneeze at. They're in the positive there, and again, I mean, all the focus keeps going to the defense, and I get it because they've been playing very good defense, especially for in a league where right now defense isn't necessarily in vogue, but they're a really good offensive team right now. Shockingly.
Yeah, and I mean, gives it to Cade Cunningham, everything he's able to do, like scoring for himself and creating for teammates, and just like the season that Malik Beasley has had too offensively. Like I I think it was Zach Lowe who's been saying that he's having a 3-point shooting season that no one is having besides or has had in league history beside Steph Curry, just when you loop in efficiency and volume and everything. So even though, yeah, they are like hanging their hat on defense, it's definitely the offense is there too, which we definitely haven't had that for a while.
And I believe it was ESPN that pointed this out, but this is the first season in NBA history where 3 players have made more than 300 threes. It's Beasley,
And
Curry, and
Beasley
Anthony
and
Edwards.
Curry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Unbelievable, right? So
crazy.
rare air for Malik Beasley in terms of his shooting. Shout out to a YouTube user here who is getting the vibe this morning. I wish I found this so I could have asked you. This is the trivia question. But he says, did you guys know that Bobby Klitman is the only Piston on the roster to have not scored at all this season? I would not have gotten that. I would not have guessed that. I would have thought in garbage time he got a layup or something.
Yeah, so on the roster is definitely a trick question because Cole Swider has had 2 appearances and he has not scored either, but he's not on the roster
True.
anymore.
No longer on the
Yeah,
Dennis Jenkins has scored.
Dennis Jenkins has scored.
Harper
and
hasn't played.
Harper hasn't played. Alondis Williams, who's no longer on the roster, had 1 appearance and he scored 5 points. So
Well, there you go.
yeah. So yep, Bobby is the only one. 7 appearances too, and that's only like he's probably played a total of around like 20 minutes. So nothing crazy, but YouTube user brought up, we'll talk about this later. Bobby's going to have some time to shine in the regular season finale.
For sure. All right, last question, Blake. Last question. I mentioned earlier, I picked out the best individual seasons for Isaiah Thomas and Chauncey Billups because I wanted to get a sense of how Cade Cunningham really compares with those guys at their peaks, right? So, Isaiah Thomas was 21-ish points per game, 4.5 rebounds, almost 14 assists, and he had 2.6 stocks, which is unreal. We know what Cade's doing. He's at 1.8 stocks. And then Chauncey Billups, the best one I found was about 18.5, 3.1 rebounds, and 8.6 assists with only one stock. But here's what I wanted to ask. True or false? Cade Cunningham has the best effective field goal percentage out of any of those guys for this season comparison.
You know what? I'm gonna go true.
You are correct. It is true. Who was second? Because this one also would have shocked me.
I'm gonna say Chauncey.
You got it again. Yeah.
There we go.
You got it again. So Chauncey Billups is elevated because he was at 43% from three and 89% from the free throw line. Right. Yeah. So that really lifts him up. So he was at about 51% as an effective field goal percentage, even though he only shot 42% from the floor. Isaiah Thomas was 46% from the floor, Cade 47% from the floor, so he was the tops there. But Thomas was really dragged down by shooting only 26% from three, and Cade, as we know, about 36 or so percent this year. So actually, in terms of efficiency, not only was Cade Cunningham the best scorer, right, the best scoring season out of these guys, and we know Isaiah Thomas was, intentionally more of a passer. He could have scored more if he wanted to, but that wasn't the kind of guy he was. Regardless, Cade was still more efficient than either of them, which is, again, props to Cade. Incredible season.
Oh yeah, literally. I'm interested to see, like, he's not he's not going to be first team all NBA. I think he should be in second team. I think that's how it will work out too, but I think once we do get the MVP award like announcement and we get the voting breakdown, like, I think Cade's gonna get some votes, honestly, because like I think how the voting works is top 5, and like he's gonna get some of those, and I think that might surprise some people, but I think it's like well deserved, and you can like argue on what the MVP award should be, but like how valuable he is to this team, and like just being one of, if not the best guards in the East, like he deserves it, and he's just like up there at the next level. And I know there was some talk, which we'll get into too, about his game lending itself and being able to translate into the playoffs. So he's just like an unreal player, and it can't tip your cap enough for the type of season he had.
Here's the argument for Cade Cunningham getting those votes, because I completely agree with you. He shouldn't win it, obviously, but he should get a vote as like, your 5th place vote or something. Cade Cunningham is the best guard on a team that tripled their win total, and his second best scorer on the roster is averaging 12 points per game less than he is.
Yeah.
12. Without Cade, what is this Pistons team?
Right, 100%. And we're going to talk more about the playoff matchups and stuff, but I think in the playoffs it matters like having the best player on the court, and I think Cade is that versus the Knicks, and I think he would be against the Pacers too. Probably not the Bucks. That's the only one in the general like teams that the Pistons could have matched up with where I don't think he'd have that. But then it's like, if you're taking the Knicks, for example, I think the Knicks might have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and probably 5th best players in the series. So like that's when you take into account and like level set in your mind like how much Cade means to this team, and how far he can take them, we'll see. But just like an unequivocal superstar, and I think he can only get better in like year 4.
Is it, tell me if this is a hot take, Cade Cunningham would be the best player in a series against the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I'm gonna say no. I would.
No, it's not a hot take, or no, you think like Donovan
Oh,
Mitchell tops him out?
I don't think it's a crazy take. I think it is
Okay.
a hot take, but I don't think it's a crazy hot take.
Okay. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I would give Mitchell the slight edge there, but I I see where you're going with it.
When you were going off the list there, I was just trying to think like, okay, yeah, Giannis is obviously a better player than Cade. Other player I'd take Jason Tatum. You take Jason
Hmm.
Tatum over Cade Cunningham. But I was sitting back like, man, who else in the Eastern Conference right now in the playoffs would I rather have on this team right now than Cade? And no one from the Cavs was even coming to mind. Like, I get Donovan Mitchell's a great scorer. No slight to him, he's a fantastic player, but I'd rather have the bigger point guard who also
Hmm.
is a two-way player to some extent, where Mitchell's been putting in a lot more effort defensively, but he's still not good.
Yeah, and a better playmaker too.
Right.
Like Cade gets the offense going more. I think just and like with Mitchell, we've seen him be really not great in the playoffs, but
Yeah.
also he has
And I
been
guess Cade's a complete unknown there, right?
really good at times. Yeah. So like we'll see what we get. Like I think the answer to that question could totally change in the matter of weeks based on what we see. And like those two teams probably won't play each other because they only could in the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe. So
Yes, I believe that is how the bracket is shaking out. One second, let me double check.
it
Correct. Yeah,
yeah.
they would not be able to play until they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So when that happens, that'll be great. Okay, before we get to more playoff talk, because obviously that will be the brunt of this show, let's spend just a couple of minutes talking about the next Bucks game, because I think the one that they just played last night, we're recording here early on. Well, not early, but we're recording here on a Saturday morning. So the game that they played against the Bucks last night, it was pretty much your run of the mill Pistons Bucks game. Cade had a fantastic night, right? But so did Giannis. And at the end of the day, the foul trouble, the free throws, and the 3-point shooting that the Bucks are able to surround Giannis with was just a little bit too much for the Pistons to match. They gave him a really good fight. It was a close game, but it never really felt like the Pistons were going to be able to get over the hump there. And again, like we've pretty much seen this song and dance for 5 years. I want to say now 6 years or so. They flashed up on the broadcast. I think the Bucks are now 28-1 in their last 29 meetings against the Detroit Pistons, including the playoffs. So it's just not new. Giannis has been this type of guy for a while, and the Pistons are only recently able to truly compete with it. Even going back to that Blake Griffin era, Blake was great, but they got swept badly in the playoffs that year. They got swept badly in the regular season games that year. Like Blake was the only guy on that roster that was able to put sort of any sort of resistance to the Bucks domination. So point is, why don't we look forward instead of backwards? This next game means absolutely nothing for seeding. But I'd want to push back on anyone who says that it means nothing at all, right? I do think that this is an important game, not only for momentum here going into the playoffs, because the Pistons are about to get about a week off, if I remember the play-in schedule
Hmm.
correctly. The Pistons have about a week break to kind of regroup, I guess, get back with the team, watch some film, get some good practices in, and kind of recover in that way. So I think that momentum here, getting good vibes right when you're going into that break, would be fantastic. And then this is a big game for some of your under or lesser heralded players, right? Like we mentioned Bobby Clintman earlier, but you could get him some minutes. That could be important long term. I'd want to focus really on Ron Holland. I think he has the potential to be a kind of X factor in a way off the bench in the playoffs. So you want to get him going. Fontecchio has been struggling with his shot a little bit. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. maybe could use a little bit of a tune up as well. So there's a lot that we could do or that we could see have done in this upcoming game that could be really important for the playoffs. So I want to ask you, what are you looking for for this final game of the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not gonna get super I guess like worked up over it no matter what happens, but totally agree with you. I mean, you don't want to just stumble into the postseason, and I mean, now that things are set in stone, there's not really a, a reason to run any of your guys into the ground, which I don't think this Pistons team would do anyway. But agree with you. Like, I think Ron Holland is going to have not a huge role, but he'll have a role in the playoff series against the Knicks. So, want to see him get some momentum heading into the playoffs. And if he could take over and help the Pistons win a game, like, I think that would be awesome. We're talking about Bobby Klintman. If he can get some run, like, he's not going to play in the playoffs, but long term, if he's going to contribute to this team, I think that's important too. And yeah, we're going to talk more about rotations and everything a little bit later, but with Fontecchio as well, like, I think he's likely the odd man out of the playoff rotation. But that's not to say he won't play. Like, foul trouble happens. You might need him in spurts, whatever it might be. So finding a little bit of momentum there, that's really what I'm mainly looking for, as opposed to, I guess, the final score and who wins and who loses. But I think it would be cool for the Pistons to end the regular season on a high note, and 45 wins would be a nice round number too.
Yeah, I would. And selfishly, I so want them to win one more game, because that would mean they had won one more game than the Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond team that made the playoffs and got swept by the Cavs. They won 44 games that year. I think this team is better than that team. I think this team has a far brighter future than that team. And I would really like that to be represented in the record at this point. So if they could pull that off, that'd be great.
They haven't won more than 44 games in a regular season since 08, which is like the last year of that era, and they won 59 games. So obviously,
and they went to the conference finals that year.
Yeah, like a different level, but it's also something that hasn't happened in nearly 20 years, to getting over that 44 win number, like you said.
Yep. And they were 500, right? That Blake Griffin year.
They were 44 and 41 and 41.
41. Yeah. So I think they're still playing for some history here. Hopefully, that would be great. But I mean, look, if it were me, like, we're sitting Cade Cunningham, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's proven that he's tuned up. He's ready to go. He had 2 incredible games back to back, right, with the Knicks, and then followed up against the Bucks. The fact that those were back-to-back games too, I think speaks to the level of health and fitness that he's at, that he's feeling really good. So perfect. We've got him tuned up. He's ready to go. He can take a break. I think you want Tobias Harris to take a break as well. He played very well again, I think, in both of these games back-to-back, but we know he's nursing a little bit of soreness here and there. It'd be good for him to get, about a week and a half or so if he could take off this game on Sunday. Me personally, I would also probably sit Malik Beasley. I think he's, like we talked about last week, he's really valuable for the role that he can provide, the spacing and shooting that he provides in the playoffs. I would not want to risk injury on that one. And then I also would sit Isaiah Stewart. I know he sat against the Bucks this past game with, I think it was a lower body soreness. Was it a quad? I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah. I don't see a reason just to push that one. Like, not a concern, but also just not anything you want to mess with. Would you limit Duren's minutes? Like, almost.
I would not.
Okay.
So the other reason I was going to say that I would really want to rest Stewart as well, like, you're spot on, don't push him, because we know how important he is against Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, he was kind of in Towns' head there in that Knicks game in the third quarter, which was really fun. And they'll want to lean into that, right? They'll want to keep going and leaning into that. We know Karl Anthony Towns isn't exactly a player that thrives on physical defense being played against him, right? So I think Stewart's going to be incredibly important for this playoff series. With Duran though, I'd want to give him a full minute load, and I hope that the Bucks sit Brooke Lopez. That way you could stick Jalen Duran on Precious, or no, who was their backup center? Shoot.
I
I'm
mean,
thinking of the
Bobby.
Knicks.
Are you thinking about
Bobby Portis. Yeah, Bobby Portis. I would want Jalen Duran to play 30 minutes and just check Bobby Portis with no help the entire time, because that's what it's going to be like when he's in the playoffs against Karl Anthony Towns. So whatever kinks he's got, whatever chinks in the armor there are for him, just figuring out how to stay in front, keep a hand up, try to contain a player like that, then I would like him to figure it out Sunday instead of game one. So I think that's actually a pretty important tune-up. Like, take as much offensive load as you can off of his plate that game on Sunday. Just seriously ask him, go in, your job, guard Bobby Portis. Let's figure this out now, and let's get you ready to roll for the matchup against Karl Anthony Towns, because we know the Knicks have gotten him in foul trouble too this season.
Yeah, and I mean, you see it like no matter what the matchup is, so this isn't a surprise, but the Knicks are going to want to catch Duran and switches and get Brunson on him, and then Brunson's going to hunt fouls. Like, you saw that, not exactly the same thing, but just trying to get Duran caught in pick and roll defense against the Bucks, and whether it's AJ Green who gets an open three, whatever it is, like, I think there's an opportunity to maybe try something new. And like, the main guard is probably going to be Kevin Porter Jr. And I know him and Duran had a little bit of a dust up in the game last night. So hopefully nothing comes too seriously of that, any more fallout in the next game. But I think that's an opportunity for Duran to navigate that defense and play, try and figure out how to like muck things up against a crafty guard who's a good scorer and is going to want to get to the line like Porter is, as a tune-up for what like Brunson and Cat are going to try to do.
And let's pull up this question now. This is from Mimsy313. Says, any changes in strategy you think the Pistons should make for the playoffs? New wrinkles on offense or defense? I'm bringing this up now because, and I think actually Bryce brought this up last week on the Pistons Pulse. I think, maybe not. If he didn't, then he definitely deserves credit for it, because then it was from a conversation he and I were having, and I agree with him. But regardless, the Pistons need to figure out a way to not let teams switch Asar Thompson off of their best player just by getting the guy a ball screen, right? So It would be great, like you said, like, all right, let's have Asar Thompson play. Let's say, Asar Thompson, you're going to go and check Kevin Porter Jr. because we want you to get used to playing against a kind of crafty, quick, good scoring point guard, right? Because that's going to be his matchup there against New York with Jalen Brunson. Well, don't switch anymore, right? If Bobby Portis comes and sets a screen, so the Bucks are trying to get KPJ on Jalen Duran, don't let it happen. Figure out what you got to do. Do you have to ice it? Do you need to play some pretty severe drop to let him go over the top? Do we need to have Duran start to hard hedge, even though that's not necessarily his strong suit? Like, how are we going to figure out that problem? Because you don't want what happened in that Knicks game a couple of nights ago. You don't want Cade in foul trouble if he gets a switch onto Jalen Brunson. I know he started on Brunson, but I would assume that's not going to happen there in the playoffs. You don't want to get anybody in foul trouble. Jalen Brunson is too good at doing that. So have Asar Thompson lock him up. Don't let him switch off. And I'd love to see that there against the Bucks.
What do you think is like the counter for what the Knicks would do if the Pistons make that change? Because like, I just think against the Bucks, and like, I think I could see it just leading to some more open threes, I guess, from the support guys on the wings or whatever. And like, do you think the Knicks will just try to have Brunson attack Asar if he stays on him, or just like do something else in general?
Well, the strategy in the past with the Knicks has been to, and with most teams, has just been to set up ball screen and get Asar Thompson to switch off, right? So I would imagine the Pistons are going to have the best luck countering that by just icing a lot of the screens And if you're icing a screen, you're pretty vulnerable to a Spain pick and roll with that back action to get the lob threat over the back. And then if you overhelp on that, now the weak side corner is also pretty wide open. I would imagine that would be the immediate counter for it. We'll see how the Pistons adjust to that. I mean, you also, Asar Thompson is athletic enough where, like, if you got Karl Anthony Towns going to set a screen, maybe you could get Duran, or Stewart's actually really good at this, being really physical with the big as they're going up to set the screen so they can't actually get to the spot that they want to get in, which gives Asar Thompson just a little bit of room to squeeze over the top of that screen and stay attached, stay in front. Maybe that's something that Jalen Duran could improve on. A super little thing, but again, Isaiah Stewart's really good at it, so maybe there's some tricks of the trade there that they could share. So it doesn't have to be actually a change in ball screen coverage, but usually that's the way. Just don't let them use the screen. Communicate really well, ice it, make them go the other way, let Asar stay in front. You're just really open for a slip, which obviously isn't ideal either. The ball screen's hard. There's a reason that's the oldest play in basketball.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, I guess the reason I was thinking about that is, like, I feel like AJ Green has just killed the Pistons at times, and, like, I don't think the Knicks necessarily have a shooter at that level. I mean, they definitely have more two-way guys, and that'll help them in other ways. But yeah, I guess I just worry about, like, Josh Hart being able to get a clear path to the rim or whatever it might be. But yeah, I think you just can't let, like, that's going to be New York's game plan, is just to get Duran to switch on to Brunson, and then Brunson goes and tries to get to the line or whatever it is he does. Yeah. And I think the Pistons need to find a way to not let that happen.
Agreed. And with the last thing with this upcoming Bucks game, but, like, I want Asar Thompson and Ron Holland to both get 20 field goal attempts. Like, just tell those boys to go out and score. See what they could do, right? See if we can get some of that going. But let's focus more on the playoffs, since we're already about 35 or so minutes into the show.
Let me bring up one quick thing.
Sure, yeah.
Just about something we talked about earlier. Cade already has a top 5 MVP vote. Michael Pena of The Ringer, who has an official vote, posted his final ballot, and he had Cade as number 5. So there's like a tracker that someone, like, tracks all the confirmed votes, and I saw fantastic. Cade was on there, and yeah, it's real. So if that was a discussion, it was a short-lived one. So we'll definitely, there are only a few confirmed votes out right now, so we'll probably see some more, I'd guess.
I don't want to get Pistons fans' hopes up way too high, but all I'm going to say is, if you're getting a top 5 MVP vote, you think maybe you'd also get put in the top 5 players in the league this season? I mean, it's kind of hard to split that up, right? Like, if you're the 5th in MVP voting and you're getting that vote, you should probably also be on the All-NBA first team for that guy's ballot as well. Like, and I know that they took
He's
positions
actually
off.
not, which is
wild.
Which is interesting.
How do you split that? You can't square that circle. Come on.
Yeah, he has the only change between the MVP vote and the All-NBA is he has Mitchell in place for Cade on All-NBA.
That's wrong.
And yeah, I'm sure it's just because, like, best player on the best team. But yeah, I agree with you there. Like, it reminds me of when Shea got all NBA for the first time. Like, it was kind of a similar stratosphere too. So it's not going to happen for Cade this year, first team All NBA, but I think we might be closer than we think.
Yeah, I think it's closer than we think for sure. And you would be right there on my ballot. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how you square that circle, though. 5th in the MVP vote, and then maybe he's the 7th best player in the league. Well, that just makes no sense.
Yeah,
let's not play those games. But all right, let's take a look here at the playoff preview. Okay, so this is from Detroit DK. Says, how would the squad exploit first-round matchup strengths and weaknesses of the team in the playoffs? Obviously, now we know that they're playing the Knicks. And then we got our guy, Gregory1988, says, could you give us your opinion about the Knicks? How will we defend their strong starting five? How will they defend us? How does the bench match up? JB cutting the rotation, maybe. Who's the odd man out? So let's just do broad Pistons Knicks preview. What do you think about this series? And we should probably just start with, like Gregory says here, that starting five and how the Pistons match up, because you alluded to it earlier. Though the Pistons have the best player in this series, I think you could say that definitively. The Knicks would have the second, third, fourth, fifth,
and maybe even
sixth.
Yeah,
sixth best player. Yeah. How does Josh Hart compare to Tobias Harris? Probably favorably. So how do the Pistons approach this?
Yeah, I mean, I think what is working in the Pistons' favor is just they have nothing to lose. They have the best player in this series, and I also think, although yes, the Knicks have their 2, 3, 4, 5 are a lot better than the Pistons 2, 3, 4, 5. There's always the talk about the minutes thing with Thibodeau, and some of it I think might be a little overblown, but some of it I think is valid too. And I just think the Pistons depth, whether we think Simone Fontecchio is either going to be out of the playoff rotation or just not have a very big role at all. And I think that's a good piece to go to, that the Knicks aren't really going to go to that. Do they have some guys who could go in there and knock down a couple of shots and defend a little bit? Sure. But that's not going to happen unless they absolutely need to. So I think the Pistons need to get out and run in transition. And you have a great athlete in Asar Thompson who's able to defend the heck out of the ball. And then you have Caden Duran as that pick and roll, lob threat on offense. So I think it'll be hard, but I think if the Pistons are able to make these games competitive, at least all the way until the end, and then you can just make this Knicks team get in a little bit of trouble because Brunson's a little banged up. OG isn't playing. That one's not as serious, I don't think. So if that happens, I think the Pistons are definitely going to make the series interesting, but I think as long as they can sort of set a tone right out of the gate on what kind of series that it's going to be, I think they'll have a better shot, and maybe we'll be able to exploit the Knicks in the sense of tiring them out and the minutes thing with Thibodeau that everyone always talks about.
And really quickly, because I forgot about this earlier, shout out YouTube user, says, most important question for game 82. How many points does Bobby Klintman score? Are we looking at a Bobby Klintman triple-double? I would say not a Bobby Klintman triple-double, but how about an Asar Thompson triple-double? I could see that. That could be fun. Speaking of, though, Asar Thompson, I do think that he is, as mentioned earlier, going to be really vital to this series. You mentioned Jalen Brunson's a little bit banged up. I know Asar Thompson wasn't the primary matchup for him the entire time the Pistons just played this Knicks team, but he was there guarding him for a good portion of the game. And Jalen Brunson had 15 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. He was 5 of 15 from the floor and 3 of 9 from 3, only 5 free throw attempts. Asar Thompson can do a good job on a guy on a smaller guard who basically, you look at what Jalen Brunson does, what makes him so great, such a special player, right? It's that he is extremely skilled, he's extremely crafty, and he's really strong for as small of a guy that he is, right? He can get to his spots, he can move other guards that are defending him, and he can get his shot up. He doesn't have many advantages against a guy like Asar Thompson. Asar Thompson is probably even quicker laterally. He's obviously longer. He's a strong guy in his own right, and he can leap like nobody's business. So he can cover that ground if Brunson goes to that little shoulder dip fade that he likes to do in the mid-range or in the post. So Asar Thompson's a really tough matchup for Jalen Brunson, even if he were fully healthy. And I think the fact that he's a little bit banged up, if Asar can do a good job and all of the pressure in this series falls to who, right? We know Karl Anthony Towns has a reputation for struggling a little bit in the playoffs, and we've seen Isaiah Stewart really give him trouble here in the past, even though he's excelled against Jalen Duren. OG Anunoby and McCall Bridges, I mean, they have no answer for Cade Cunningham when they guard him. Are they going to be able to turn around and score a bunch of points on the Pistons? Like Randall Taylor, I think, brings up Tobias Harris, that he's going to be a really important piece of this series, right? How he guards either OG or McCall Bridges and then score on the other end. I agree, right? And if the Knicks are sending, let's say that they send OG Anunoby to check Cade Cunningham or McCall Bridges, either one, right, to check Cade Cunningham. The next, whoever's not guarding Cade is probably guarding Tobias. And Tobias Harris has had some good, strong games against the Knicks, even with that, just with all the attention that they put to Cade. So Tobias and his scoring is going to be really important. And that opens up everything for the floor spacers, right? And Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. So like the Knicks are really good. The Knicks are really good. They're extremely talented. They are probably going to go to maybe a 7-man rotation in the playoffs, which Tom Thibodeau has historically done, 8 or 7-man. I think he's only playing 8 right now, actually. What did he do against Detroit? He played 9. He played 9 against the Pistons this past game. So he'll probably drop them down to an 8-man rotation and go from there. But they have a shot. I don't think they're going to win, but they have a shot. They can make this tough for the Knicks. It's not as bad of a matchup as I think it may look on paper when you're just doing the Pistons have the 1st and 7th best player in the series game.
Yeah, and I think something that also helps the Pistons is like the Knicks have struggled defensively like for a pretty long period of time over the season. And I think they're starting to put things together a little bit, and they've had issues where different guys are out at different times. But I think like the Pistons have not been perfect defensively, obviously, but they've been good and they've been better than the Knicks too. So if you are able to limit what they're trying to do, limit Brunson getting to the line, and hopefully it like Cat doesn't hurt you from the perimeter and whatever it might be. But I mean, defense matters. You're going to see a little bit, like I'm sure you'll still see a decent amount of fouls, but ideally you'd see less than you see in a typical regular season game. And I think that can really help the Pistons too, because it allows them to play a little bit more their game, and like kind of hurts what the Knicks are trying to do, honestly.
And you mentioned the Knicks have kind of struggled defensively this season, which a little bit shocking for a team that has Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and McCall Bridges. But they have, right? They absolutely have. And you know what else they've struggled with? They have struggled offensively against teams that play very physical defense. Not necessarily good defense, but physical defense. And we know that that's the brand of basketball the Pistons play. And it's only going to get more so, I would imagine, in the playoffs when that whistle loosens up just a little bit out on the perimeter. How do the Knicks respond to that, right? I mean, there's wiggle room here. I do think a lot of this series is probably going to come down to Cade and Tobias versus the scoring output of the Knicks kind of big 3 scorers, right, with Anunoby, Brunson, and Towns. Because if we know Cade's going to have some good games, and we can talk here in a second about how we think the Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks are going to guard and try to stop and slow down Cade Cunningham. But if Tobias Harris can feed off that attention that Cade's getting and score maybe 17, 18 points a game in the series, then I think you're looking at a lot of really close games.
I thought last night, and by last night I'm talking about the Bucks game, I thought that was the ideal Tobias Harris game, and like he's getting a lot of credit, but I feel like he deserves all of it and more for especially how he's like come on at the end here. But against the Bucks, he made some big buckets in the fourth quarter to kind of keep the Pistons afloat. both while Cade was off the floor resting, and then while like Cade was on the floor too, getting a ton of the defensive attention. So yeah, I'm totally with you and Randall Taylor in the chat too. Like huge series for Tobias Harris, and I know we've seen like a bit of streakiness at times, but I think he's like hitting a stride at the right time and having that veteran presence who's been there before will really help this team. And of course you have like Malik Beasley, Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr. there as well. But Tobias is going to be like a huge piece in this series.
It's kind of crazy looking up and down the roster at guys with now real playoff experience, right? Like you just mentioned, because I don't know, this is a young team still, right? The core of this team's very young, but Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. in the starting lineup, they've both played significant playoff minutes, like deep runs. Malik Beasley was on the Bucks last year. Dennis Schroeder has had playoff experience, I think going all the way back to some of his time in Atlanta, right? Paul Reed sitting on the bench, but he's been there. He kind of knows what the vibe is as well. The Pistons have 5 guys that can give a little bit of a preview to what it's going to be like for your Cade, Desar, Duran, Ron Holland, so on, right? That's not nothing. Like I mentioned, they've got a week here to just study film, get in practice, and get ready for what this series is going to be. And they've got prominent voices in that locker room that can speak from experience there.
Hey,
that's huge.
You're forgetting about Lindy Waters too.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Well, he does. He knows as well.
Seriously.
He does.
Yeah, I mean,
know.
He's been on good teams since he's been in the NBA, including the Pistons now too. So yeah, I'm with, and especially in terms of like guys who are actually going to have big roles. I think it'll be like I've always thought of Tobias Harris as just the guy you go to when you need a bucket and you're trying to figure things out. Like, I think that's what he has been, and that's what he needs to be, and like obviously be able to play both ends of the floor too. But yeah, it's not like this is a young team, but it's kind of like the perfect mix of young players who are the center of what you're doing, and then also like veterans who are super important parts and like are crucial into making like the whole thing flow together.
Yeah, for sure. So let's look at the Knicks here for a second. Two kind of questions, right? So let's say that they're going with an 8-man rotation, right? You know, Precious Achiuwa is probably going to play, McCall Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride. I would guess PJ Tucker, Josh Hart, and then OG Anunoby, right? I would guess that's probably their 8, unless I'm forgetting. Oh, I'm probably for Mitchell Robinson. You think they'll end up playing him instead of Precious Achiuwa?
It's tough. What's Robinson's like health status? Do you know?
Up and down.
I feel like that's what it always is. So I think that's like I think they'd love to, especially just like with some of the defensive issues that they've had at times, but who knows if it's going to be prolonged or what's going to happen there. You didn't say campaign, right?
I don't think I did.
Yeah, so he might play. And I guess it just depends on how Tibbs wants to manage the like Brunson, Deuce McBride thing. And then like the only other one I could see after that is like Landry Shamet, but I'd see
he's not been playing hardly at all this season, I think.
Yeah, he was like a late signee, so I'd assume he's out of the rotation, but there if maybe like a last second 3-point scenario or something, but I don't think he'll play heavy minutes either. So I'd say like yours is pretty accurate.
And we could probably let's just play this game actually. So the Pistons just played the Knicks. Okay, the Pistons just played the Knicks. The Knicks rotation that night, they had Achiuwa, Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns, Brunson, McBride, PJ Tucker, Cameron Payne, DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet. Of those guys, All right, they had 6 players play significant minutes. You had Achua play 40 minutes, Bridges 33, Karl Anthony Towns 29, Brunson 29, Deuce McBride 39, and PJ Tucker 27. Like, I would suspect based on that the Pistons will see some PJ Tucker in the playoffs. And then now on the same token, right, the Pistons rotation. They did play a 10-man rotation. You had Tobias Harris, 28 minutes, Asar Thompson, 21, Tim Hardaway Jr., 27, Duren, 26, Cade, 35, Ron Holland, 22, Stewart, 22, Schroeder, 27, and Beasley, 27. Simone Fontecchio, only 6.
Mhm.
Only 6. So if we're looking at this, right? So who on the Pistons and who on the Knicks are likely to play significant roles in that series? I wouldn't have said this a week ago, but I'm with you now. If JB Bickerstaff cuts down the rotation, it's probably Fontecchio.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think, and after that, I'd say Holland, I think he's still going to have a big role. I just think he might not get as many minutes, and maybe he'll play his way into it. Like, he comes in, he's making things happen on defense and is also finding a way to score too, and like is able to stay out on the floor for a few more minutes. With the Knicks, the PJ Tucker thing is interesting because he hasn't played many minutes at all this year. So, but like I see it from the sense of like he's a guy who, like, the Pistons are going to come in and play hard this series. Like, he might be the Knicks guy to fight back with that a little bit and try to set a tone from their end. And
And you want to
obviously,
talk about playoff experience, right?
yeah, and like Josh Hart and OG and Michael Bridges can kind of do that too, but Tucker's like at another level. I'm interested to see what Tibbs does with that. Because yeah, I don't know how much he'll be on the floor, but it is an interesting piece that the Knicks could go to. Um, but yeah, I think we'll see a very short rotation for the Knicks. Like, I'm debating if Cam Payne will play, but he has played a lot for them this past season.
I
So
bet they just stagger Brunson and McBride.
yeah,
Because once you get Josh Hart back and OG back, McBride goes to the bench.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So we'll see. I mean, you can't put anything past Tibbs, I guess. He's just gonna
True.
play his
Yep.
guys out. He wants his starters in the game as long as possible, which like
Yep.
makes total sense. Can it
Especially in
be?
the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. And YouTube user brings up that Tucker played because of like the OG and Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson injuries. So yeah, we might not see him. We might see him for bits. We'll see, but yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna be dealing with the Knicks starting 5 for like 40 minutes a game.
Yeah. So let's close out on this before we make just some general predictions to wrap up the show. But how is Tom Thibodeau going to try to slow down Cade Cunningham? Cade Cunningham has been on a heater here against the Knicks this season. So what do you think he's going to throw at him to try and quell that?
I mean, do you think it's gonna be what the Hawks did and just like face guarding Cade for the whole court? Like, I think that might be what he has to do, honestly.
I think it might be what he has to do, what he should do, but
Is it what he will do?
Tom Thibodeau is a prideful guy. He likes when his teams can check up and just slow down teams one on one. Like it's like I don't know. I guess it's a little bit like a defensive coordinator who just needs to have his team solely play man coverage back in like the early 2000s in the NFL. Like it's almost a philosophy in a way with Tom Thibodeau, at least as far as I can remember watching Tom Thibodeau led teams with obviously the Knicks now, but the Timberwolves were that way. The Bulls were that way. It was very much a one-on-one with help sort of
Hmm.
situation. And he wasn't one to double team all that often. He's never been one to trap backcourt, anything like that. So look, I know that's my fear because I don't know if the Pistons have a good response, right? If
Right.
you could send two big, athletic, long wings who are good defensive wings in Bridges and OG Anunoby and trap Cade back before half court. I don't know if the Pistons have a good reaction to that. I don't know if there's a good counterpunch on this roster to that sort of approach. And we saw it work relatively well when the Hawks employed it, and they were employing it with two like 6'5" guys, right? Well, Bridges and Anunoby are both what, 6'8", 6'9", and athletic and long. Like, that's a bigger problem for Detroit. I just kind of don't think he's going to do it. Like, if he was going
Mhm.
to, don't you think we would have seen that in that game there against the Knicks? That would have been the time to test things out.
Yeah, but I also think, like, he didn't have OG, who's, like, so huge for that team and is probably who you're gonna see on Cade. I think I think the good news is although the Knicks have those, like, lengthy wings that they can certainly throw at Cade, whether they double him or not, you're not gonna see as good a defender as Dyson Daniels in this series, which is a blessing, and, like, yeah, have guys done a good job on Cade at times, like Andrew Nemhard comes to mind, like things like that. But we've seen Cade be able to figure it out against the Knicks, no matter who they have available. That obviously, with more time, you can throw different things and see what sticks. But I don't know. Maybe Cade just has their number too. Like he's that good of a player.
You want to know what Cade is averaging against the Knicks? In only 34 minutes, too, by the way.
Like 35 and 9.
It's crazy. It's not that crazy. It's 31 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds in
Okay.
34 minutes. The
Wow.
Knicks have a Cade Cunningham problem with a capital P. It is a huge problem for them. So if you're not going to double, right? If you're Tom Thibodeau, you don't want to send a trap at Cade. You don't want to send that extra help. You don't want to get the ball out of his hands before he crosses half court because you're worried about the fast break potential from that, which defensible, fine. Like I get it. I don't agree with it if I were in their shoes, but I get it. I kind of think Josh Hart is their best bet. If you
Yeah.
think about the players that have had success against Cade Cunningham, they're not the big, rangy athletes, right? It's not OG Anunoby. Cade Cunningham, there's a highlight. I think it's a game-winning shot his rookie year against Toronto. Guess who he hit it against? OG Anunoby. Like, Cade can get space against bigger guys like that. Where he's struggled in the past is more of your Andrew Nemhard, your Marcus Smart, guys that are a little bit shorter, but have good strength to him and can get up underneath him and make it
Mhm.
difficult for him to win as the lower, stronger player. So I think Josh Hart can do that to some extent. He's 6'5". He is built. He's really strong. And he's quick enough where I think he could probably stay in front. I do think Cade would be a little bit quicker. But if Hart can just play that kind of Andrew Nemhard pest type role, right? Just stick to him like glue, make it difficult for Cade to get into triple threat, make it difficult for him to comfortably dribble the ball, and just kind of play from there. I don't know how much success he's really going to have with that. I mean, if you look at what Cade has put up against the Pacers, it's still 26, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists. Like, it's not like Andrew Nemhard has shut down Cade, but he has made
Mhm.
him less effective. Okay, so against New York, for example, Cade Cunningham is 66% true shooting, and against the Pacers, it's only 56. Right? Again, still good, still really good, just not exceptional, not back-breaking level of
Right.
success. That would be my guess. My guess is that's the response we see with Cade Cunningham. Have Josh Hart try to stick to him like glue and see if that could get Cade off his game a little bit. Again, I don't know if it's going to work, but that's my guess.
Yeah. And it'll be a long series. I don't think either team will be able to wrap it up quickly. So you could see different things at different points throughout the series too. I think Tibbs will try to make his game plan and stick to it, but it doesn't always go that way. And I think I think the Knicks have a lot more to lose than the Pistons do, which isn't a spot I'd want to be in if I was New York.
Just a fun stat thing here since I'm looking at it. Who is the team Cade Cunningham has roasted the most this season? Who's his best scoring average against?
It has to be the Knicks, right?
It's not.
Really?
I'm throwing out only one game series.
Okay.
Okay, so like against Minnesota, he put up 40. We're gonna throw that one out.
Yeah.
They've played him twice.
I'm trying to go through it. It's not the Lakers, is it?
No.
All right.
Actually, the Lakers are one of his worst. It's 18 and a half,
Okay.
8 and 10.
Okay.
10 and a half. So like he, still a good playmaker there against the Lakers, but he's not torn them apart scoring wise.
Okay. I think I'm stumped on this one.
Dallas.
Okay. Home
Against the Mavericks in 2 games, 37.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5 assists.
And I know one of those was losses, right? Or were they?
Yeah, I think they're 1 and 2, right?
The one in Dallas. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Hey, homecoming for Cade.
The other kind of wild thing about that is he's a point a minute guy because he also played 37 minutes on average in those 2 games. It's only 2 games, so like he can't go too far off that. The Knicks one is far better with the 4.
Are the Knicks the highest in the East?
Let me look.
Just if you have it in front of you.
Now. I do still have it up. Yes, I think they are the highest in the Eastern Conference. Okay. I think as well they're the highest of the teams the Pistons have played more than 2 times. They are.
Okay.
The next closest would be the Atlanta Hawks, and he has destroyed the Atlanta Hawks. 30 points, 7.5 rebounds, 12.5 assists in 4 games. True shooting of 63%.
Yeah.
Good Lord. All right, let's wrap up on this. I know we're going long now because we got a digression there, but regardless, let's close out because this was a fun question from our guy Gregory 1988. Oh, actually, before we do that, you have to answer this one. I don't know anything about gambling. YouTube user, what odds would it take for you to bet $1,000 on the Pistons to win the series?
Well, I wouldn't do this to clarify.
This is not gambling advice.
Yeah, and I think I saw that the Pistons are like 3-1 odds, or a little bit better than 3-1 to win the series. I think if I could get them, like if someone was like, I'll give you $1,000 that you can only bet on the Pistons and there's no risk involved. I think if that was a little bit higher, maybe around like 6 to 7 to 1. That sounds good because I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that they'll win this series, but that's a lot. That's a lot, man.
Sounds good to me. I don't follow this stuff enough to even speak intelligently on it. So let's do this one. This was fun. This is our guy Gregory. He says, how about a DBB or Pindown playoff prediction game where everybody who participates makes their picks in the upcoming week? We're going to run this by our guy Brady Fredrickson and see if maybe he wants to do like a DBB on 3 or something. We'll see. We'll bring this up with
everyone can just throw it in our
Yeah.
comments too. Like, there will be plenty of opportunities for everyone to put their predictions in.
Yeah, definitely. If you're watching live, throw in your playoff predictions here as well. But basically, the only seeds in the Eastern Conference that I believe are still up for grabs are 9 and 10. So
I think it might even
the
be
matchups are locked in.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think so. The Bulls are only a game ahead of the Heat. Do you know if the Bulls have a winning record on the Heat on the year? I know they beat them a few nights ago, but I think they're down like 3-1 in this season series. Am I wrong?
NBA.com posted that the East seeds are set 1 through 10.
Perfect then.
So
they're locked in.
Yeah, it shouldn't change.
All right, so here it is, 1 through 10 then. You got the Cavs, the Celtics, the Knicks, Pacers, Bucks, Pistons, Magic, Hawks, Bulls, Heat. So let's go round by round here and just do for the Eastern Conference, make your predictions. All right? And then we'll next week we can do the West.
Okay. So I think the Cavs.
Yeah, that's just starting to play in actually.
Okay.
Why not? Why not? Who wins Bulls Heat? Who wins that?
The Bulls. The Bulls have been fun.
They have been fun.
I'm buying
and I
into
think
it.
the Heat just have a stench of dysfunction on them that I don't
Yeah.
think. I know they're 7-3 in their last 10. I don't like it. I don't like it. So all right, Magic Hawks. Who wins that game?
Magic. I think
I
so.
agree.
That would give you a Magic Celtics first round series.
Right. All right. The 9-8 game then. That would be Bulls Hawks. Who wins that? Say it. I want to as well. Say it.
I'm gonna go with the Bulls, even though
Me
it pains
too.
me because I love Dyson Daniels. But yeah, the Hawks without Jalen Johnson, I think it's tough. And the Bulls have been playing well at the right time, so I'm gonna give them the credit for that. So
Bulls are
Bulls,
playing
Cavs,
out of their
first
mind
round.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're playing out of their mind, and it's a fun story, especially with how me included, I roasted them after that trade deadline, and then
Yeah.
here they are, Kobe White, Matas Buzelis is having a great run. Like they're a lot of fun right
Mhm.
now. So I do want the fun to continue, even though they're getting swept by the Cavs. I think they
Yeah.
sneak in though. I think they sneak in. Do you agree? Are they getting swept by Cleveland?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we got that one wrapped up then.
Yeah.
All right. Celtics, Magic. Who wins that?
I think the Celtics take care of that. Maybe not a sweep, but I
And
think
how
they
many?
take at 5. Like I
Yeah,
think they
I
take
was
care
gonna
of
say
that
5 too.
series pretty.
We're gonna
pretty
have to
easily.
disagree on one of these eventually, Blake. All right. Pacers, Bucks. Who wins how many games?
I'm gonna say the. I'm gonna say the Bucks in 7.
Oh, there we go. I'm going Pacers in 6.
Okay.
They're playing really well right now. I know the Bucks
Yeah.
are too, and there's kind of maybe Dame comes back, maybe not. But the Pacers are just a really solid team. They're
Yeah.
deep. They got a lot of scoring options. Ben Mathis kind of coming into his own now in his year 3, and Halliburton is fantastic. So I also think Siakam can get in the way with Giannis in a way that not many other teams have a guy that can, especially with Turner kind of backing up and patrolling the weak side there to block any shots if Giannis has to play under the rim. So I do think the Pacers reasonably can pose a threat to Giannis, and if you can slow him down, which no one really can, but if you can kind of, then yeah, I think they
Mhm.
got a shot. Knicks Pistons.
I'm gonna go Pistons in 7.
Oh, love it. I was going to say Knicks in 6.
Okay.
I want the Pistons to win. Obviously, I want the Pistons to win. I think they've got a chance. The Knicks are just so talented. It's
Yeah.
tough for me to pick against them. But okay, round 2, you got the Cavs versus the Bucks for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cavs in 6.
Yeah,
with this
I was
one.
good. I got Cavs Pacers, so I was going Cavs as well. I think 5. I mean, the Cavs are buzzsaw right now. All right, you have the Pistons versus the Celtics, and that
I'm
is
gonna-
some historic bad blood.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Celtics in 6.
Yeah, I got. If I had that matchup, I probably would have done Celtics in 4.
Yeah.
Oh man, the Celtics are good.
Yeah.
I know they're the 2nd seed. I think they're the team to beat in the East still, but I've got Celtics, Knicks, and honestly, Celtics in 4.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think the
Okay.
Knicks haven't beat. The Knicks have not beat any of the Cavs, Celtics, or Thunder this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
They're like 0-7 or something like that.
Yeah. So we both
So,
have Celtics.
give me the
Cavs,
Celtics.
East.
Yeah, we do.
Finals.
Who's coming out of the East?
I'm gonna give it to Celtics in 6 again.
It pains me, but agreed.
Yeah.
This Cavs team is really fun. I love Evan Mobley. I love Darius Garland. Those are legitimately two of my more favorite players to watch in the NBA right now. Mobley's amazing with the defensive range he has, and he's starting to add a little bit more offensively. Darius Garland's just fun with the type of shots that he can create and make for himself.
Yeah,
You got Donovan Mitchell's unreal. Jared Allen is a great defensive center, but the Celtics just at times look untouchable,
for
even
sure.
though they have a worse record. So it pains me, but I agree. I think, why don't I go Celtics in 7 just to give the Cavs a little bit
I
more
could see that
credit for
too.
my heart, even though I think they're going to lose.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I wanted to pick the Cavs too, but I just think the Celtics, they're tough to take down right now. So I'm gonna give it to
Yeah.
them until I see someone top that mountain.
Yeah, agreed. Well, all right. So next week, let's make sure we remember we got to write a note down, but we'll do the Western Conference too,
Yeah,
because I don't even think the Western Conference is locked in yet. There's still 4
no,
through
there's a
7
lot.
right or up in the airs. So next week is when we'll get to do that. Even though we'll lose out, I believe, on at least the first round of play-in games.
Hmm.
I think the 9, 10, and 7, 8 are going to be early in the week, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So we'll at least have a better picture of what it's gonna be.
Yeah. Well, for everyone at home, enjoy those games. The play-in is so fun.
Hmm.
That's one of the few things. I know we're off topic now, but that's one of the few things the NBA has done differently these past couple of years that like I'm all over it. The play-in is such fun basketball, even though it's kind of just the right to get slaughtered by the 1 seed. I get it, but it's
Yeah,
fun. So enjoy that. If you're watching at home,
especially
enjoy
now that
those
the
play-in
Pistons aren't
games.
in it,
Yes, yeah, the Pistons get
you can
to
enjoy it.
avoid the bloodbath, so you could just sit back and watch, and maybe see the Atlanta Hawks dreams get dashed as
Hmm.
as our predictions go. But other than that, all the usual stuff like subscribe. I'll throw it over to you to close us out.
Yeah, and reminder, you can call our phone line, ask a question, hear your voice on the show. Perfect time to do that with the playoffs coming up. We'll have another week to talk about what to expect out of the first round series. The number for that is 313-355-2717. Special thanks to our guy, Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. Shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.